Yeah. So yeah, I get to be, you know, dictator for a day, which is all good. And so I think we're going to get into this, right? So having said that, like I said, let's begin with a few open mics, which is, you know, great to also put us all in the groove here. And let's start with Catherine Ronan. You would step up.
Uh, Catherine Ronan here, in from West Cork. So, yeah, delighted to be here to support Mary Louise, my strong female friend. So, I'm going to read a poem from my book, Elemental Skin, published by Revival Press, and one of the strongest women of all time, Bridget. Cupped flame of sunbeams and snow, cosmic power of renewal. Oak sap rises to kiss your fingers. Spring tides bathe your feet. Your sketched moon, fractured sun, first flower of spring in a druid's fist. Born between two thresholds, you hold the hand of all labours. Our Mary of the Gale, we tie magic ribbons and rags to your holy wish trees, sing songs over ancient rivers. Protector of poets, smiths, healers, we kneel before your mantle of stars. Bridget, carried from Iona to Bethlehem, you inhale the dark, exhale the light. Thank you.
You know, we do allow for a bit of an expansive open mic. If would be lovely if you had a second poem to read to us.
I will indeed. I will read a poem published recently in Broken Spine, and also chosen for the chapbook for Cork Coventry Poetry Exchange. Chapter 10. When your mother died, you shaved your head. Grief wore suspended time. I cooked for you, washed, dressed, and lullabied weeks. Tasted the name of your first kiss in case you forgot. Reading Jack Kerouac on the bus, I revived the animus and anima of teenage crush. Lay down on wet grass by the side of a busy road. Same hat, different colored wrapper every day. When our love died, you didn't shave your head, but I plucked every hair on my burning body each tweezer day, and nobody knew, not even you, the bald of my mourning. Thank you.
That was excellent, and you have some nice comments on the chat as well, and just beautiful language and imagery. So as Sandy had chatted, it's better to hear two from you than just one. So that's good. And I just want to say, just out of coincidence, amongst the books on my I rotate in the morning with poetry is this Irish poet you may know, James Conrad Patterson, Bandit Country, and I am just reveling in the book itself. So highly recommend that. Okay, on to Julian Matthews.
Hi. Hello. Sharing screen. Just some early drafts of some poems. Existential chrysalis. When I go, I'd rather not have people say gone too soon. I'd rather they say he left right on time, never overstayed his welcome, went as he came, head first, pushing through, shoulders high, a pelvis rocker, a breech bopper, unhinged and released, unstrung, and now deceased. In relative terms, a contraction or three, perhaps freed and disentangled in space-time, driven by a mysterious, infectious energy affecting, boundless, all-encompassing, like a Venetian gondola slicing through canals, subverting surface tensions, delving deeper under bridges, over currents, constantly oaring, even serenading, yet never boring. I don't want to be seen as a wannabe when I'm gone, but a triple dose of dopamine, oxytocin, and serotonin that rush when you slow down and try to recall the way things were. My existence transparent, shamelessly apparent, a translucent wing memory furiously flapping inside, then landing ever so gently in slow-mo to pollinate the bouquet of your heart.
Julian, I hope you're toggling over to perhaps a second poem to read.
Yeah, sure. Apologies ahead for whoever. Jesus dies, raising the dead. Jesus dies again this week. Same time, same place every year, up on a hill flanked by thieves. But if you wait a bit, he comes back after 3 days, which makes one wonder what took him so long. Was he in purgatory or limbo or knocking on heaven's door? Or was he doing a little reno on his new digs? Maybe he just needed a break after 3 years of preaching and hanging out with 12 free organic followers. All those fanboy questions. For a carpenter, putting those parables together were the true test. No cell phone, laptop, not even Google for some research. Only wet fingers on sand, perhaps, and a long memory. Dropping out from social media from ages 12 to 30, surprising for one with a royal fan club from birth. We'll never know how his early drafts look like. No letters were sent and kept by an old pen pal. No teacher mentions his early genius in class. No one found a diary in a drawer, a journal under his bed. No unearthed a tablet or two. No scribblings were found on a cave wall. No rolls of crumbling papyri in jars. By inference, he was one of those quick on his feet orators, never needed a secretary to dictate to. After all, he had a direct dial connection to the one above, a walking, talking Chat GPT Pro, breaking down complex concepts for easy consumption without the hallucinations. Mary must have been a tough tutor too, making him recall and recite scripture from the top of his head. I can't even memorize my own poems, which makes me quite the dud in the human to Messiah scale. Even writing this doesn't warrant a stoning, much less a crucifixion. When I shuffle off this blasphemous mortal coil, though, some cloud storage somewhere may still have the dregs of my early poems. Some future meta archaeobot may even track all the drafts down, replete with spelling, punctuation, and grammar mistakes, may even compile them all in 3 days and make them available online. Some shy, nerdy bullet kid from the future may even find joy in reading and memorizing a line or two. And that alone will be enough of a resurrection for me. Happy Easter, everyone.
Absolutely smashing, Julian. Absolutely brilliant. I love your work. I love your work.
And now I don't even need to comment on it. Greg, that was perfect. So, yeah, Julian, your dark humor as well, and your chain of thought is it's always a pleasure to follow. And it seems fitting in I don't know what way, but Amanda, if you would step up to the virtual mic, you're on.
Thank you, Ken. It's good to be here on a Thursday. We'll say I wasn't planning to read, but I'm going to read on Mary Oliver's Franz Marc's Blue Horses. And then if there's time, I can read another. It starts with a quote from Mary Oliver's poem. I would rather die than explain to the blue horses what war is. I want to say something about the behavior of horses, but my daughter keeps asking me to roll out more glitter-flecked Play-Doh to cut more animals out of sky. She hands me a butterfly cookie cutter and then an elephant. Earlier, I read that Horace the elephant, with his large ears and even a trunk and feet that hear, becomes frantic when shells fall near the Kiev Zoo. Does my daughter remember staring me out of sleep for water, lost stuffies, nightlight batteries? It was her footsteps I heard, her breathing near me. There is a zookeeper that sleeps with Horace the elephant. When he's scared, the zookeeper rubs his cheek, gives him an extra serving of hay. My daughter takes the elephant I just made and asks for a butterfly. As I cut, she stacks them on a meadow green plate. I read that when horses fight in the wild, there are almost never any casualties, unless the loser refuses to lose, unless the conditions are wrong. But even then, no explosives, no mothers nearby selling Play-Doh cookies to Barbie dolls. That'll be $2, I half say, and she gives a double high five. What will I have to count on when she holds me accountable? We have never explained to the blue horses what war is, nor have we explained it to the red horses, the yellow cow, the white cat, or the purple fox that Mark also painted. I show my daughter the red fox Mark fragmented years before Cubism made shards of art, made illegible the sentence. No one needs to explain war to the soldier eating a can of lemon cling peaches in no man's land. Juice good enough to write home about, and he did. They were so good, he wrote on the back of the label, and someone's granddaughter brought the priceless in for appraisal. Who made those grenades? Who canned those peaches? Who laid axe upon maple or birch to make for each gun a shoulder? Who took up arms and mined and mixed the metal to mold bullet, trigger, barrel? Who hollowed the earth they stood upon? Dare we explain the longest division? Just a minute, not now. I'm busy. Okay.
Oh my,
And
so beautiful. Oh my God. Oh my God. Okay, I'll shut up.
oh, that's okay, Greg. Thank you. And I'm sort of torn in the next one. I have one I'm been working on and I just finished. And I could read that one, or I could read another one that finally arrived in print in my mailbox recently. Okay, I think I'll read the one I just finished. Sorry, I can't decide. Okay, it's called 12:08 a.m. What else do you need? I ask my daughter. Just a minute, I say as the cold floor reaches through thin socks, as would the seepage of water. I hold her hand, walk her down the hall, and put the river back to bed. Is a river still a river after returning to sea? I mean, is a mother still a person after she becomes a world? In 4 hours, the redstarts and blackbirds will wake. In almost 5, the blue spruce will be shot through with light and hung across an orange sky. Another day will open its mouth and call me by the name of someone pinned beneath rocks. Most rapids are named after those who never grow gills. But have you heard how silent drowning is? I've taken to wearing bandanas instead of washing my hair, all the locks of my lingering selves, over our shoulders the rapid. Our mist rises and settles on the bridge of my nose. We've spent years asking mountains and flowers how to wait out this fog. We've spent moons scooped up and dispersed by beaks of thirst. When a river goes over the cliff, she doesn't know where the bottom is. Only a bolt of lightning can shock granite into glass. I grab the keys and dive. Thank you, everybody.
Amanda, you have astonished me, and I always expect what you do. I wish I could
Mm.
see inside and look through your eyes and feel your brain for 15 minutes. Beautiful lines, extraordinary lines. Wonderful, wonderful, coherent, plain spoken at the same time. I don't, it's wonderful. Yay.
Oh, thank you, Greg.
I can also see from the chat that, like myself, Lenny got a chance to see, hear, and hear a one of the revisions to this poem before this final one, as such. But even in the prior revision, I mentioned to Amanda how I saw the poem as being one of those that are worthy of being, entered into the journal contests. It's of that ilk. So there it is. And there your daughter is. There's Shirsa. She's a star for a moment and forever. Okay, speaking of stars, we're going to go into the feature portion. So, let me just say as a brief preface to reading Mary Louise's bio that I've been listening to her voice for a number of years now. And it's a voice that she doesn't let out into the world all that often. And so it makes it a particular treat and pleasure to be hearing her tonight feature. Mary Louise's poetry has been published in numerous print journals, such as Broad River Review, Common Ground Review, the Delmarva Review, Sanskrit Literary Arts Magazine, Evening Press, Chronogram Magazine, and Metropolitan Diary in the New York Times. Her work is anthologized in Savor, Poems for the Tongue, Caps's Mightier, Poets for Social Justice, Cap's Poetry 25th Anniversary Anthology, and elsewhere. Online publication credits include the Asahi Haikust Network, Verse Virtual, and other sites. Her work has been exhibited twice at SUNY Orange Hall Gallery. Writing workshops include Finding Our Voices, Women and Creativity with the late Lucille Clifton, the Omega Institute with Sharon Olds, the New York Writers Institute with Peg Boyers, a masterclass sonnet workshop with Molly Peacock, and the 2016 Sunken Garden Poetry Festival with past U.S. Poet Laureate Juan Felipe Herrera. The recipient of a 2015 Poetry Prize from Arizona State University, Mary Louise Kiernan was shortlisted in 2024's Ireland's 11th Ovale 5 Words International Poetry Anthology Prize. The Gift of Glossophobia, Kelsey Books, is the title of her full-length debut poetry collection. Most pertinent, she is a card-carrying member of Calling All Poets. To learn more, visit MaryLouiseKiernan.com. To hear more, stay tuned. Here she is.
Thank you, Ken. There I am. And thank you, Greg. And I want to thank the founding fathers of Calling Poets. That would be Mike Jakovic and Jim Eve. And I wanted to just take a moment to talk about the positive ripple effect of being part of Calling All Poets has had on my life. One of the people that was in a Zoom once was Dr. Michael Anthony Ingram, and he heard my work and he invited me to be interviewed on his Quintessential Live Poetry podcast. So later on, I will put the link to that in the chat. Then, of course, it was Sandy Yannone who came to CAPS one night and invited us to something called Cultivating Voices Live Poetry. And as a result of that, I connected with so many poets in Ireland, around the world, and ended up going to Limerick and being part of an open mic there. And then, of course, to Lime Square Poets. And now, because of CAPS, I connected with the New York Writers Workshop. And I will be attending a 10-day workshop in Greece. So all of this, connections would not have happened without Calling All Poets. And if this is starting to sound like an Academy Award speech, yes, then there's more thanks to come. And I want to thank Julian Matthews. Julian, you were so generous with your technical direction and your support. I do have a presentation of my work this evening, and that would not have happened without Julian. And of course, I want to thank all my friends and fellow poets for being here this evening. So the first slide that I would like to show is actually a detail of a drawing. And it came out of the workshop with Juan Felipe Herrera. And Juan Felipe was the poet laureate from 2015 to 2017. He's a poet activist, a child of migrant workers. And as a result of being in another Zoom, the poem that I'm going to show you after you see the drawing was actually translated into Italian. So I am going to do a screen share here. And let's see if we can do this. And I am going to begin a slideshow here. And are you able to see the drawing? Hi.
Yes.
Okay, I just needed some confirmation.
Yep,
So this is a detail of a drawing that I did in that workshop. And it was such an astounding workshop because he had us first moving around the room, and then he had us drawing, and then we were to write a poem about our drawing. So it was really a very brilliant way to do the workshop because each person ended up with an acrostic poem as a result. And the next slide will be the actual poem. So the title of the poem is The Translation. And during the workshop, Juan Felipe Herrera said to all of us, "You are going to pierce infinity." And the poem is flush right for a reason, because I wanted to express how I kept coming up against a wall. And I will begin the poem. The translation of my drawing requires words to mark markings on bone leather coupled parchment. Writing tight on folded paper recalls wherever script on feathery ailmail letters. I have no language to explain inexplicable. Concentrate, translate, relay, calculate, collate, contemplate, manipulate, devastate, mutilate. Our poet teacher schools, question marks are loud. Sounds on the paper, tapping of instruments, racket on wood, minds penning, but who will unfold the parchment to hear me? So I was in a Zoom, and there was a gentleman by the name of John Elliott, and he said he liked my work. He said, could I send him more? And I did not know who he was, but I gladly sent him a few poems. And he turned out he was the editor for an anthology developed by Salerno University. And the graduate students there translated work in English into Italian. So it's just astonishing to me that it's a poem, and it was in my book, and then it became reprinted again, and not only in English and Italian. So the next poem that I have here was the one that was shortlisted for the Ovale Prize. And the challenge was we were given 5 words. And we needed to, as soon as I saw the word squirrel, I knew the story that I wanted to tell. And then I took it a step further and then created this shape. So this is a tail or no tail. A squirrel is a squirrel is a squirrel, you tell yourself, until you spy the one with no tail, catapulting from limb to limb to limb across the old twin trunk tree. How could it have no tail? Caught in a snap trap with no way out but to chew it off? A tangle with another critter? No matter, there are chores, errands, work to do, yet you wait. This rodent races light. Could there be a pair? Do squirrels have twins? Triplets? Twin sheets getting ripe, finishing with the washings, you find no tail twining itself around a birch branch, seesawing. Its tail hair sought for fly fishing lures. Did someone yank the tail and run? In his shed, your uncle chopped tails of caught plump mice to collect bounty. For years, your no-tail springs up, down, around the tree. How long can a squirrel survive? Then you find a new home where your garden grows riper, riper. Pulling at weeds, you ignore 2 full-tailed gray squirrels. You search the word squirrel. Its roots sprout from scius, skia for shadow, horror for tail. Greek for a squirrel sits in the shadow of its tail. Once again, you recall the squirrel with no tail, only to ponder the why of why you wonder. So this is a poem based on an artifact. It's this alabaster pear that I was given as a gift when I was in Perugia, Italy. And this took 2 years to get into print. They had issues, and finally it ended up, I was shocked to even hear back, and they said it was accepted. And, you know, this is the first time I ever got paid for a poem. So I actually got a check for $25 in the mail. So that's, you know, another claim to fame for this poem. It was in Savor, Poems for the Tongue. And I am going to show you this. Perusian pear. To call it simply a drupe, the botanical label bestowed upon stone fruits, is to know neither the vision of its triple layers of skin, stone, and flesh, nor the hidden kernel at the center of this alabaster pear, graced by one verdigris leaf, with polished streaks its loving sculptor would refer to as stains of berry blue, nor as an object of art presented sweetly by its object of affection. I do treasure this poem and the alabaster pear, and what I've done is actually turned it into magnetic versions. So I'll tell you a little bit about that later in the chat. And the editor of Savor told me she wasn't supposed to say this, but my poem was her favorite. Okay, I'll take that. So back in 1970, I was a senior in high school. I was just about 17. And this was what was going on in the world. I was reading Silent Spring by Rachel Carson. It was the very first Earth Day, which I participated in with my friends. And then a few weeks later, the Kent State massacre happened. And I'm going to digress a moment because, you know, with everything that's going on the campuses in the United States, and if military force is brought out, it would be like deja vu. It's so disturbing to me. And this is the poem that was in my collection and was accepted into the Sanskrit Literary Arts Journal. And they paired it with a really beautiful image, Leaf Deterioration. And the title of my poem is called My Silenced Spring. A Call to Mind, 1970 to 2020. Oh, when will they ever learn? Pete Seeger. April 22nd, 1970. What do we want? Clean air. On that first Earth Day with my high school friends, I skipped down subway steps, Flushing's Main Street station, the mission to save the nation from the General of Motors, who had yet to drum out loyalists to Rachel Carson's warnings of future songless mornings. White surgical masks donned, our peacoats from the Army Navy store buttoned down, up the stairwell we charged. We paraded past barricades out of line, giddy and fearless in our freedom to chant. What do we want? Clean air. When do we want it? Now. May 4th, 1970. What do we want? Peace. Bared, bayoneted rifles aimed to halt our college students with civil rights to assemble. Without warning, guardsmen of our nation who never intended to kill their fellow American citizens randomly struck down protesters and passers-by. Speakers against war sprawled on the ground, felled by bullets. States away in my parochial uniform, I disassembled. Too shattered to wield my will, too numb to cry out. What did we want? Peace. When did we want it? Then. This poem I began, it was the day after. I just have to pull it up because the top is blocked for me. So I'm just going to take out the old paper copy. The title of this is A Cry for My Lady Liberty. A 2024 post-presidential election lament. Woman, how do you stand, crown crumbling, with your coppery gown parts on display? To be pawed. Somehow we popped out of the slideshow. Let me just go back to that screen. Thank you. Woman, how do you stand, crown crumbling, with your coppery gown parts on display? To be pawed while immigrated women titter and say, it is just the way men play. Through sealed lips, do you forgive them? Have mercy, for they know not what they say. And artist cartoons our Uncle Sam as he chokes you, thrusts a blade into your spine. Is the political personal, the personal political, and what of the dual daggers in my own heart? My lady, do we extract the knives only to bleed out, or survive with them, embedded like shrapnel? Your muted lips, can we forgive them? Have mercy, for they know not what they do. This is a poem that began from a prompt and was accepted to Enclave. It's an online journal. It was published in 2020. And I would just put this out there if anybody would consider writing their own poem based on this prompt. It might be, a good exercise. If the world were to end next week, what is the final poem you write? The final poem you give away generously, treacherously, genuinely, fearfully, necessarily, beautifully. And this poem is an homage to 3 poets that I truly have been inspired by. Obviously, the format is Emily Dickinson. The phrase "so gladly dead" comes from Emily St. Vincent Millay's Renaissance, and Thoughts Wild Remain is inspired by Mary Oliver's poetry. And I will read it now. Every poet's heart's desire. Every poet's heart's desire is each truth told that we aspire. Long we be so gladly dead with not one buried word unsaid. Pray not our thoughts wild remain, save ones found in the public domain. Usually I work a long time on my poetry, and this came in a day. So it's a gift to me. Not everyone gets the opportunity to become a writer. I remember longing, I want to write, I want my work published, and it has happened for me, so I'm very grateful. Back in 1988, I came across this little clipping, which I will read to you. Railroaded to his death, St. Paul, Minnesota. A man who wanted to write a book about traveling by freight train was found dead, crushed by a load of lumber, police said yesterday. Gregory Carpenter, 26, of Eau Claire, Wisconsin, who may have jumped into a small space for warmth, was found pinned between the lumber and a wall of a freight car. Carpenter left home with a sleeping bag, a railroad atlas, traveler's checks, credit cards, a list of 60 people he planned to visit, and notes indicating he hoped to write about his experiences. So this is in memoriam for this young man that I never knew, never met him, but I think that I wrote it and I just scanned it in the way I have written it. So this is in memoriam. A railroad atlas and your dream crushed by a freight load, a weight load of lumber. I imagine you, hands clasped behind your head in a daydream of clackety-clack and wayfaring whistles. A knapsack, traveler's checks, and a journal. Oh, you dreamer, to write that book about the hobo life, the life of train hoppers, the life that took your life, crushed by a freight load, a weight load of lumber. And this is my final poem. And before I finish with this poem, I wanted to thank Mike Jakovic for all the groundwork he did so that I will be able to receive the grant from Poets and Writers. And so this poem was printed in my book and also recently reprinted in Verse Virtual, or I should say on Verse Virtual site. And I just want to say thank you to everyone for being here. It means so much to me, and CAPS has been just an amazing force in my life. Striking poems. Work is love made visible. Khalil Gibran. She sees panhandlers with signs that read, "We'll work for food," and wonders, do they mean to say, "We'll work for love"? Her predecessors forged on, slid strike plates to sew clothes, used stitch rippers to start over, struck sparks as blacksmiths, forced metal with hammers, clawed to pull out nail heads, sacrificed selves for love of other. One granddaughter, ever hesitant to speak up, silently writes down, scribbles in print, scripts on paper, clicks typewriter keys into letters, saves words linked to hard drives, struggles to chisel fine lines, struck by the heart and metal of those who journey before and watch her work at striking poems. Thank you all.
Oh my, that was wonderful. Mary Louise, I hope you can see all the comments in chat from so many people here. That
Thank
was
you. I will look later. Thank you.
it was beautiful work, beautifully presented, beautifully formed on the page. Yay.
Yeah.
Hurrah.
There's always a sense in your work that there's really not a wasted word for all of that. I'm not sure you completely filled out the time that you could have. If you have a postscript poem you'd like to offer up, we're here to listen.
Thank you, Ken, for the offer. But I'm looking forward to hearing the open micers.
Whoever they may be. That's all of us. Okay,
Thanks.
thank you. Anybody else want to offer a word that they have not put into the chat before we get into the open mic? Okay, so I'm going to basically
Standing ovation with Cork. Standing ovation.
Thank you, Catherine. Sweet dreams now. Go to sleep.
No. Oh, night owl here. I'll be here. I'll hang on for another.
I have to say this, Catherine and I met in Portugal, in Lisbon, and we had the opportunity to touch the sanctuary relic that holds the skull of Saint Bridget. Had no idea that that was going to happen. It was just an incredible experience.
Oh, Mary Louise, anything you can do to keep Catherine talking so we can hear her Irish lilt is fine by us. Yeah.
I have her all to my own on WhatsApp. Sorry.
That's really not fair. Okay, so I'm going to announce, like in groups of 3, the upcoming open micers, so everybody can sort of be prepared. And we are going to lead it off. Well, the first group of 3 is Greg, Sandy, and Don Krieger. Greg is often brings up the rear, but sometimes you got to put the lead dog in the pack up there. So, Greg, if you're ready, here we are.
Okay. Well, I want to encourage everyone to look at chat for my reading and everyone else's, because so much parsing and emotional response to the lines. I also want to say this, and I'll keep this kind and brief. I was in a facility when I was 14 years old, and the guards there permitted sexual assault. And to hear this week that we have sent people with no trace of sin or error in their record to places where it's being characterized as a rape camp has disturbed me greatly. And I just want to share that with you all. Now I'll read my pieces. The first piece is called I Am Porous to Music. I shake because Dad couldn't. With his polio, he froze. His heart, he froze. His nethers. He hated psychedelika, resented the sensuous curve of dance. That was 1967. He was a monster with a real heart who wanted to be forgiven for his heavy fist after the summer of love stripped him bare. The next one is called Caught at the Button. Not tall enough to fight back, my arms a basket over my head, caught at the button, his button, mid-sternum, him lifting me by squeezed arms. He lets go with the right and pummels me, fist closed, one last sock. Fat lip. That's my dad. He sure taught me. The next one is called Sexy 6th Century BCE. Dates and facts in them Judeo-Christian Bibles can only be corroborated with independent sources starting in the 6th century BCE. That's millennia of earlier stories for which we possess no corroboration. They reside in the land of myth, mostly. I miss, mostly, the invisible mystery, full of complex creatures with agency and intent. I mine the infinite for traces of the supernatural and find the term blurs at every level. What could be more supernatural than a black hole? What could be more sacred than a teensy orchid seed becoming pale, softly rubberoid florality? Beauty and splendor, alone in the clear story, among ornery life. The stars and planets chase each other. Watch the heavens for a fortnight and see. Do we get to kill each other, for God's sakes? Joy and spring exist. Cliche cannot wash it away. I can brush your forearm with a tender, selfless love. And all that passes through us is invisible. Baryons, the glue that connects all and might as well be timeless love and daily self-care and a twist in an oak trunk. All the rigors of impermanence and the lassitude of compassion. And someone who knows you and despite all keeps you in mind, does not capsize your timing, the lag time of loving kindness, and who can be shortened to almost zero. It's easy. Just set aside me and its myriad affections and quiet now. There's only one electron. There is only one electron, and it is everywhere. Exhale, exhale, you extraordinary thing, you. Who is before you? And if I
Oh,
have
wow.
time,
Yes, you do.
okay.
We
This
have to catch our breath with your work. So yes, here we go.
This one's called My Penis.
Well, maybe we ran out of time. So please. Onward.
I'll go ahead.
Is it long?
No.
Sorry.
And no, you know. Okay, here it is. My penis is squished into my drawers. I couldn't tell you, non-tumescent as I normally am, where exactly each bit is. Balls approximately behind, cocks diffused, indistinct location per each bit, glands in a general front position, plus a soft angle, and the rest of it probably bent. Otherwise, I'm unsure. No immediate sensation of it, thank goodness. Isn't it the same for your labia, ladies? Smushed, some of it slightly left or right or whatever, against panty and undies, yours and mine. How odd, we never discussed the default state, the insensate realm of stored away for future use. And I remember adolescence when it was put away sticky. How queer a species we are, hiding and rendering senseless day to day our most intimate master, a small cephalopod of desire, cradled and vulnerable between our thighs, like the young we carry, pink and brown, so exquisitely vulnerable and ugly. That's what I got. That's it.
Okay. Well, certainly, Greg, after the first two poems, I was going to say there's one word for your work, which, again, those first two poems brought, which is compelling. And the third poem was in its own way just the same. So thank you. Okay, Sandy.
Hi, Ken, and thank
Hey
you,
there.
everyone. Mary Louise, I'm so glad I was able to be here. Just a really amazing reading, and yeah, I was so glad we started out with the open micers we did, and I'm really looking forward to hearing the rest of you all. Well, I'm going to read two poems, and I've been so fortunate. My second book came out last year, and so I've been reading from the Glass Studio so much that I'm starting to just decide I want to read other things when I come to a reading. And we're in the window of the Titanic anniversary. Just a couple days ago was the anniversary of the 113th anniversary of her sinking. So I thought I would read a poem from Boats for Women, not the title poem, but a poem that I rarely read, but it just seems to speak to. This poem was an erasure poem from a the very first book of major consequence written about the Titanic, called A Night to Remember by Walter Lord, who was a military historian at the time, but then became so well known because of that book. And it was written in 1955. It was as I said, the first book of consequence. Before that, there was really no other books written about Titanic. He had interviewed survivors for the first time to write this book. And since then, there's now over 10,000 books that have been written about Titanic. So this is an erasure from one of the pages of that book. And before I read that, I just want to say, last year at this time, I was actually over in Ireland, and on the anniversary, we did a reading for Cultivating Voices Live Poetry, a special reading from Cove, which then was Queenstown, in 1912, to commemorate that. And Catherine was one of our guests. So I'm really glad to be able to read a Titanic poem with Catherine in the room this evening for all of us. Well, it's actually early morning now for you, so it's evening here. So this is called A Night to Remember. You're beautiful gone. And there were no more. Never again could the world fall apart. Off duty, put to sea, outdated, an absurd capacity. This worked out. This meant she had to carry nobody. Even so, this took care of only everybody. The end of class denied anything of investigators, evidence that hundreds were kept crawling from ladders to escape. They were so hard to find. The statistics suggest casualty, not to mention the chance to be better, but not perfect. Remembered at the gate. May we pass? They asked. No. In fairness, these distinctions set policy, as if from no policy at all. Barred the way, but didn't tell anyone. Left to shift, enterprising. No one seemed neither anything, just proud of covering arrival. Yeah, I feel like there's so much with everything going on in this country, which reverberates throughout the world, of the class distinctions are going to, I think they're going to continue to get vaster and vaster instead of the other way around, which I hope is what we had been working toward. And that's how it was in 1912, of course. And I think that's what I was trying to get to in this poem. Well, I'm going to take an extreme about face and bring you to New York City in 1966 for a poem that was published in live encounters, more a couple yeah, oh sorry, in Ireland, in an LGBTQ journal, Impossible Archetype, an online journal that I really, really love, edited by Mark Ward. I did my graduate work in Nebraska, and I am a huge fan of the poet Weldon Keys, a mid-century poet, and this puts him in the room with Truman Capote and Andy Warhol in a bit of a love triangle. And Keys was at the forefront of so many different movements, every basically art movement, and he lived in New York for a while and then moved to San Francisco, where he famously, you'll find out if you don't know the story about him, you'll hear about it in this poem. This is called Weldon Keys Crashes the Black and White Ball, New York City, November 1966. Masked at the Plaza Hotel, at the party to end all New York parties in celebration of In Cold Blood's release, Weldon's been presumed dead for 11 years. A faithful few still fantasize about a life underground in Mexico, though none have read his work lately, if ever. What are you drinking, old boy? He asks Truman as if it were still yesterday, 1948, at the Algonquin Hotel. Truman raises his mask, then an eyebrow, then his empty glass. Why, you cunning devil, whatever you'll give me. The drawl underneath Capote's lisp, familiar enough after all this time that Keys doesn't flinch at the hint of proposition, as he once or twice did. Out of the corner of his eye and across the assembled mayhem, Warhol's jealous of everything, the masked man, Truman, the glint of success he detects in Capote's eyes, that diamond dust look that comes from rave reviews, sex, and death. Weldon's been dead now for 11 years, free-falling from the Golden Gate Bridge like the silhouettes of one of Warhol's suicides, caught mid-air en route to a Manhattan sidewalk death. Truman moves in a little closer, licks his lips. How'd a dapper boy ever find his way from that Cornhusker state to back here? Swishing his hand toward the ballroom sky, the ash from Capote's cigarette raining down like a ticker tape parade. Andy feels a swell of chill from across the room, boring through the holes in Key's mask. His hand dead on Capote's right shoulder. Weldon confirms with a wry twist. I just jumped, you silly goose. I just simply jumped. Thanks, everyone.
Wow. That was, yeah, both of those, but I've actually, within the past year, read whether it's the collected or selected poems of Weldon Keys, and so, boy, did you nail that? And don't we love the conspiracy theory that he did not jump off the bridge? Again, those sightings somewhere between, Mexico City and Mars, where he's been seen. But a poet who was, under-recognized, underemployed, and, very regional and localized. But, here you are providing what he deserved, right? I mean, he was that kind of poet. So, and indeed, as you also prefaced, all that he did really before his time, or to introduce a style that is still so current. So, KEES, Weldon Keys. Go out and buy that book, and I'm sure there's no more royalties due. But what are you going to do? We can still share. Okay. So now Donna's next, but let me announce the 3 open micers after that. We'll have Bob, and then Seth, and then Scott. Mr. Krieger, step on up.
Thanks, Ken. And thank you, Mary Louise, for reading. I'm so glad I was here. And Sandy and everyone, it's so wonderful to see you. We're in Tallahassee, Florida, and I don't know if you saw the news, but um, we're okay. You know, Marcia didn't go to school today. She got a call like 45 minutes before she was going to go in to not go. But it put me in mind of another time. On October 27th, 2018, a monster shouting, "Jews will not replace us," opened fire at the Tree of Life synagogue. 3 days later, the first of the murdered were buried. One was husband to my coworker. 11 months later, I wrote Unveiling. The Jewish Chronicle turned it down, but the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette published it. Unveiling. 11 lives taken at the Tree of Life. Hours later and miles away, our writing workshop canceled. Our chance for defiance, however small, gone. I waited at the funeral with hundreds to pass security, newsboys on the street asking, with their cameras, who is afraid? I watched her halting walk to his grave, reluctant like a child. I followed like a child with the shovel full of earth to cover him. I listened to the learned, seeking meaning, hundreds crowded into the Beth Shalom basement, police in armor at the entrance. When the doors locked behind us, I noticed the dampness and a draft on my bare neck. Today was 11 months, hundreds standing witness in the warmth beneath the trees. I still live, so I was there. I wonder, though, would we have canceled our workshop for a drive-by at a playground? That's in this book. You know what? I'm going to get rid of this. Let me just turn this off so you can see it. Yeah, there's my book. You can download this book for free. I'm going to just put that in the chat. And actually, I've come up with you can get a print version also in full color. It's $7. And the black and white one is $4 from Lulu. I also want to show you the cover in a little more detail. Where is it? Here we go. And I want to read you this piece on the back cover, which I just put together. A lot of my poems, I sort of cobble together stuff that I've written before. Revelations from the Gulf of America. May we always remember, understand, and care enough to do better sooner, even when we don't want to. Nothing is more seductive, privilege. Indifference to the innocent's suffering is a sickness. Our dead are different from yours. That frightens me. Sociopathy. We cling to platitudes because they're easy, and we long to believe. My nation is great. God is good. We who count the dead on a scoreboard. But for wars and wealth, we in America were never great.
You know, that that deserves the moment of silence that follows.
It
Yeah.
does. Come on, you
Okay, well, thank you. Yeah. Okay, Bob, you're up, and as Bob is queuing up, just to say his really fine poetry tends to be, and everything I've always read, on the brief side. So ears open, as Bob steps
Here
up
are
to the.
two brief poems.
There you go.
The cars. The cars smaller than the birds, smaller than the men who get inside, smaller than the sky that threatens them if they dare to dream, smaller than what the door contains before it is opened. Information. It was an animal or a vehicle, a door or a tree. It was a color that was really a verb and a song that was really counting. It was a way of explaining meaning that was incomplete. Thank you.
A color that was really a verb? Oh my God, Bob, that's so gorgeous.
Thank you.
That is so gorgeous. Oh my God. Beautifully done, Bob.
And much like the moment of silence that followed Don's poem, I was kind of hesitating to allow a little pause for your poems to sink in. But here we are. We're going over to Seth, please.
Hi, everyone. All right. Hi, everyone. Last time I was here, I had mentioned that I had recently put out an audiobook, my entire collection of poems from a Black Odyssey, recorded to music. And I had offered free codes for anyone who wanted a copy. And you can also access it through Bandcamp. And there's another place, and I'll think of it before I send that information in the chat. Anyway, given what's going on today, I thought I would read some poems from the chapter in my book, A Black Odyssey, titled Polyphemus. Polyphemus, of course, is the giant cyclops that Odysseus encounters. And for me, what Polyphemus represents is narrow-minded people who care only about themselves and don't care who they hurt as long as they get their own. So, and as I do on my audiobook, I read the poems straight through. I don't break and let you know what the title of the next one is. So here we go. What do you do when the eyes lie? When common decency is strung out on morphine and children dangle from limbs that bleed blood oozing like money down the gutter of their dreams? What do you do when eyes are held hostage, when juries deliberate over forks and spoons in kitchens you have only known by going down on your knees, when babies are feast for flies and hopelessness becomes another man's meat? What do you do when the eyes lie, when the suits that once rebelled over the tax on tea refuse to walk with the dog that is their darker selves, and instead toss bones at rumors of its humanity? What do you do when eyes wax blind, when prostitutes and killers outstrip the weeds, when the obvious is slapped in jails, raped from behind, let out on good behavior after learning to mimic proper legalese? What do you do when the eyes lie, when fear conspires to drug the truth, when law becomes its lackey and hatred does a few Hail Marys before returning to patrol the streets? And what do you do when the babies cry? When brains pound the pavement and drive-by shootings offer your Einsteins their only relief? What do you do when the eyes lie? There is something his smile cannot see. The fork of his influence can't hear the cries of beef, no matter how high he climbs the whales of his ancestral tree. The does she or doesn't she blonde nurtures his seed, her daily forgiveness conflicted, bludgeoned in the sunbathing lap of disquieting luxury. She chides gently, obliquely. For make no mistake, he wields the bigger bat from his once queer shoulder. Flies disperse as he laps the honey, his M16 poised in case the worker bees demand more nectar in lieu of their broken backs. His son attends Harvard, majors in humor, and the whip of quips that proclaim him a chip off the same shoulder, off the same smile that cannot see the homeless panhandler, that cannot see the child older than its mother, that cannot see the awkward tongue writhing under his boot heel, or the lamb lie down with the fag, that cannot see the martyrs or their bloodstains or innocents reamed in the headlights of his God of free speech, that cannot see those split infinitives plotting their revenge in the minor leagues, or his own humanity nailed to the cross of the dirty little slut whose mother does his laundry, that cannot see those Indians now called Arabs, the one with no inalienable rights save to roll over, play dead, and look menacing in his Goliath TV screens as he reaches for another beer and cracks open another smile that cannot see. There is no such person as the devil, he insisted, as flames flared from his eye sockets and licked his face like a black widow must lick the lover she seduces, then fucks before devouring. It is superstition, he ranted on, clicking his cloven heels for emphasis and nervously twitching his tail. Man is in control of the planets, and science and reason are king. With that, he turned back to his vials and test tubes and mixed a molecule cocktail. And somewhere far away, visible only on radar and TV screens, subject to instant replay and statistical analysis, thousands went up in flames, and the wail of orphans roared like a furnace. Like I said, he turned and winked at me, adjusting his cap to accommodate his horns of plenty. There's no such thing as the devil. There's only them and me. Thanks.
Oh my God, Gregory, Seth, that was astonishing. I could not type fast enough how many lines were so fierce and emotional and intellectually sound and brilliant and original. I'm in awe. I'm in awe.
I appreciate that. And I must say, I've been admiring a lot of the poets who have read prior to me, but I don't type fast. And if I type the lines that I really enjoyed, I wouldn't get to hear the rest. So even though I'm not responding to other people's poems, I am immensely impressed.
It is a night so far.
And as I said, I will put some information so that you can listen to sections of my audiobook. Appreciate it. Thank you.
You bet. You bet.
Well, we actually thank you for bringing this, so thank you. Okay, so again, I'm catching my breath here with the reading. So next is going to be Scott, but after Scott, our next trio will be Elizabeth, Christopher, and Naomi.
Okay, let me see here. One moment. I don't have access to all my work because it's on another computer that has resisted. But I'm going to do two here. This is an old one. This is Suicide's Boyfriend. Very old. She was reaching to find only dust in the corner. No divers to come out of the gloom, plumbing her oyster oceans. The sun wound down and the shadows got bigger. She got lost, away in her own attic, in a house her father hadn't built. She slipped on the dust, banged her head on the rafters, clung to the chair for safety. The rope was the doorway down. Let me see. Okay, computers are so simple when you know what you're doing. Blindness Within, this is a new version, it's expanded. Blazing from the east, blinds the young, bewilders the old. The bulk of the orange-haired ogre shelters the children. People do because they can. People die, they must. Sometimes there is nowhere but here. History shelters all. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
Sometimes there is nowhere but here. There's our moment, isn't it?
Yeah. You know, we were quite literally looking deep into your eyes while you were reading. Okay, Elizabeth, please step up.
All right. Hi, everybody. I live in the middle of the Pacific Ocean in the Republic of the Marshall Islands. And the poems I'm going to read today take place in the Marshalls, specifically on the island of Ebi. This is the island where the majority of the Marshallese population within Kwajalein Atoll live, and they're living in the shadow of a U.S. military base. So the first poem takes its name from a rather unfortunate nickname that's really common for Ebi, which is Slum of the Pacific. On the civilian island, native children surf streets at slightest provocation of rain. Mid-corridor missile tests escalate guidance for fishing boats and transit to smaller islands in the atoll, and the children are still gathering cardboard and rejected plastic from the new social housing construction sites after their dry ramen breakfast, dry ramen lunch with Kool-Aid powder. On the shuttle to HNL, a base contractor said we'd have to demolish Ebi to save it. And then the second poem is Hotel Ebi. And the bar ran out of cash, power. We kept drinking in the dark. The rejected missile launch towered almost sharp across the lagoon. In the morning, Bud Light would take the gray ferry to heavy lifting on the base. Better pay than here, but less than Americans make. Budweiser would fish from the dock where his wife caught the ferry to clean quarters or serve in cafeteria. I didn't ask if he'd read the pollution reports. The only other whiskey drinker works here, elected. He'll wake even later than I do. I'm the only woman, the only American in this bar. I'm here working to train the people to earn a little bit more on base. I wish there were better whiskey. I prefer it Irish. Thank you.
Smashing. Really good, Elizabeth.
Yeah, that's,
Really,
yeah, excellent.
yeah, come anytime. I welcome your voice.
Yeah,
Such and tricky little lines. I love it.
mm.
It evokes the place beautifully.
Yeah, the brevity of of their poems, and the impact that they bring because of that is so notable. Is this actually the first time you are joining us?
It is, just because of the time difference, this is usually during my workday, but I have today off because of a Good Friday is a national holiday here.
And just for a very brief side comment, are you there for a specified period of time?
I work at the National College. I originally came out on a 3-year contract, and then I just kind of stayed.
Okay, well, stay with us too. It would be great. Okay. Okay. Christopher.
Hi, this is my first time, and one of the reasons why I'm here is because, like so many of the poets who've read tonight that have been talking about what's happened in the country since January 20th, and having listened to so many poets on different poetry sites reading about that, I decided to put together an anthology of poetry. It was released last week. It's called Silence is Consent. Mike Jerkovic is in this book. So is Ron Bremner, and there might be other people here that I don't particularly recognize, but there are 83 poets in this book. And
Please post this in chat.
I will.
Link you can. Yes, please.
I will do that. Can I share the screen? Yeah, I can. Okay,
Yes.
just to show you, this is what the cover looks like. And in other words, is my thing was we can't remain silent. And if we do so, we do so at our own peril. I'm almost 80 years old, and so I can't do a whole lot of marching anymore, but like I did the last time he was in office. But this time I think poets have to speak out. And as I said, there's almost 400 pages of poetry in this book. And for $18, it's quite a buy. And on top of that, I'm not making any money from this. All of it's going to the ACLU to defend people, hopefully including the poor soul that's in the
El Salvador.
down in El Salvador. Yeah, I can't even think of what that's all about. But at any event, what I'm going to do is I'd like to read one larger poem and two small poems. This is a page from the book, and I'm not going to read you. You're familiar with probably both of these. This is called The Price of Silence. Silence is sometimes defined as the absence of sound, but silence is really the absence of action. Silence, however, is always profound. It punctuates, communicates, sometimes in pages, most often in volumes. Silence counts its victims not in the hundreds or thousands, but in the hundreds of thousands, in the millions. Silence has forever been complicit in the silencing of the voices of millions of souls in Uganda, in Rwanda, in Cambodia, Armenia, in Auschwitz, in Dachau, in Bergen-Belsen, in Baba Yar. Silence is cowardice. Its lips sealed as our most basic freedoms are held hostage to the absence of protest, the absence of action, the absence of sound. Silence is all of these. But most of all, for all of these, silence is consent. And the next one is a visual.
Christopher,
And
I'd like you to submit that poem to our volume this year called Resistance. That was an astonishingly good poem, and
thank
it's
you.
just exactly what we're looking for this new volume.
Show me how, all right, I'll put my email in the chat, and could you give me the information I would need?
Yes, I'll send you the
Thank you.
information. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Oh, that's all right, thanks. The second poem I'd like to read is a visual also, and this is from the book too. I had a little bit of fun putting this together. Instead of the Statue of Liberty, this is called the Statue of Griftery. And the epigraph here is from Donald J. Trump. We're going to be selling a gold card. By the way, his picture's on it, in case you don't know what he looks like. We're going to be putting a price on that card of about 5 million. And that's going to give you green card privileges. Plus, it's going to be a route to citizenship. And wealthy people will be coming into our country by buying this card.
My God.
If Donald Trump had his way, this would be, instead of the new Colossus, the new Onassis. Give me your greedy, your filthy rich, your mega moguls seeking life tax-free, your con artists, your masters of the golden grift. Send these, whose luggage sports the double G. Show me the gold, and I will be your bitch. And the last one is a very short poem, and it's there. By the way, there were also illustrations in this book. Greg Spisak, I don't know whether you're familiar with him. He's a West Coast poet. He did a number of the illustrations in this, and to go to what we were just talking about the jail in El Salvador. This is the illustration he did for that. In other words, even Big Bird and the Cookie Monster ended up down there with the rest of them because of the fact that they're also trying to shut down Sesame Street.
Yes. Yes.
So anyhow, this is the last poem, and it's from a book that I wrote a few years ago called The Eater of Dreams. It's the last poem in the book. It's called Espejo, Reflection. And it's based on a line of Eugene O'Neill: life is a solitary cell whose walls are mirrors. Bare beams, worn wood, metal mesh, balk at beating Arizona suns. Harris hawks stalk, screech warning cries, dive at darting jackrabbits seeking sanctuary. We gaze upon the rusted hulk of what was once a stockade, a fence, a wall, a palisade, raised against alien advance. Who were they, these aliens we so feared, that once we built such barriers? Who were we? Thank you.
Brilliant, Christopher. Ken, I'm speechless at the high quality of work tonight. I defer to you.
Well, we will carry on then with the high quality of work. So let me just gather a bit the upcoming. I don't see, Naomi is next, but for the next group, I don't see Sam. So there you go for that. I see me, so I'm going to be part of that, of the next round. Steve is still here the last I looked. Yes. Yes, Steve, there you are. And Beth, you're there. Just let me ask at this point, Joan, did you want to read as well? Okay, that's a thumbs up. Lenny will be before you, and then Joan, and that's our, I think, quintet at this point. But Naomi,
I actually
bring us
don't
in.
see Naomi.
Well, that's going to make it even doubly more difficult. Okay, well, let me, Steve, why don't you step in and I'll follow you.
Okay. I have 3 poems tonight. None of them political. My father's den. Oak columns, an overstuffed chair, and turquoise velvet drapes shroud the room, holding in the fire's warmth. I leap to my father's lap to behold his stories and absorb his tales. Conquests and expeditions follow ancient sea charts, an archaic globe, and a rusted sextant. Reflections of the moon spotlight adventures as mysterious orbs descend from constellations unknown. Regaled with wild creatures, cacophonous storms, and legendary struggles, I voyage to bedtime on the broad steamship of his imagination. No saga is repeated. I'm hooked on Swedish fish, those lingonberry red gummy candies that stick to your teeth only long enough for your tongue to budge them and contribute further to your sugar high. That and the consummate low keep you going. All identical, pike, gar, whatever Swedish species exists in the wild. None deformed or sticking to each other, even close to their expiration. I guess that's why Kroger sold them for 44 cents. I bought 6 and left 14 packs for other addicts. Some naming committee sat in a room. We've already got Norwegian wood and Brussels sprouts. Stockholm has its syndrome. What would keep consumers coming back? Like salmon upstream, eager to rise to their demise, the fish spend their lives luring me in. And I'll end with this short one. Courting. The bullfrog chorus karaoke's a midnight sonata beneath a half-doused moon. One sings bass, one tenor, another murked in a puddle. 3 dreamers. If no one inches towards another, has it all been a tease? Thank you very much.
That was good, Steve.
That was very good.
Original and fun, that last one. Yeah.
And I was doubling down on Greg calling out Stockholm has its syndrome. Really good. Okay. Interestingly, I'm seeing a message box on my computer going, confirm your speaking language is English. So I hope I'm still understood. So I've got 2 poems. Let me save that. It is English, yes. And they're both dark because half the time I write dark poems, and not dark political for the times, but darkness in general, of course, is still apropos. This first is called Singing into the Void. When we ask death to take us, as some do, it is not the same as to be taken by death. For to be taken by death is as when one is taken by beauty, or by the symmetry of an equation, or the rough-hewn friction of love. And to be so taken is to be taken by that which does not let go. Does not let go. So yes, perhaps I've been curiously wrong. To be taken by beauty, to be taken by death, they do seem now to be the same song. And this is called, thank you, this is called Stolen Goods. The night shift assembles at their workstations and begin bolting pieces of metal unrecognizable in purpose. Air warmed by the friction of machinery, hours passing without name, evening crossing into night like stolen goods, a theft that's wordless, without shadow. Inside every head, there's a basement harboring an animal, trying to bite through the stone foundation. Broken teeth littered like brittle souvenirs across the floor. The scent of earth lying just beneath. So once again, the animal opens its jaws. When concrete throws back the glint of dawn, the night shift trades itself in. The neon of diners still lit like the skin of a woman they've paid to sleep with, whose bed doesn't show well in first light. A day in the act of stretching out its limbs. The sun one more soft apocalypse that will insist on their embrace, then turns the heat of its face for a kiss. Thank you. I'm going to find my cheat sheet here and see where we're thank you. Coming up after that, we have Beth. Beth Morris.
Ken, that was so good. Don't rush past your work. That was gorgeous. Gorgeous. Some of the best things I've ever heard you read, and you always read great. Wow.
Well, I should have saved that for you know, the next presidential inaugural, when we won't have somebody we don't like getting in there. Putting that aside, yeah.
It is a stellar night so far. That's all.
Man, no, it's I mean, and this is no lip service. I mean, seriously, I'm like others have pointed out, and SETH, this has been really slam bang from beginning to end. So, Beth, no pressure. You're up.
I'm just Godsmack tonight. I know Caps is always great, but I'm really just, so I'm going to try to read. Okay. This is just came out this week, and it was available on Amazon. It's called A Yellow Notebook, and it's a strange poetry collection. It's a hybrid collaborative with my dead father's notebook. So part of it is drawn from his writings and combined with mine, very much like the mixtape that Natalie Cole did with her father's songs, with her father's music. And it's shaped as a rondo, and I'm going to read the last part of the rondo, is the latter part of his life. He had chronic heart disease, a massive heart attack at the age of 58, and spent the next 10 years deteriorating, but he could still write. And I'm going to read part of it from that section. The first one is called Because. Because the doctor played chess with my father, the doctor refused to let him go. The doctor convinced himself my father would come back again. The doctor wouldn't listen to my mother's pleadings. You know, Dave wouldn't want it to have lived like this. No sign of brain function. Vital organs, arteries shut down. My father seemed to shrink to the size of a little boy under the antiseptic white sheets. His face the color of blue agates. I slipped into the ICU, touched his arm through the tubing, told him, I'll take care of Mother. Told him it's time. His eyelids moved. His face warmed. He tried to speak. The code blue alarm sounded. I stepped out into the hallway. The nurses ran to his bedside. The doctor wept. My father was gone. And this is a poem, a follow-up to that. It's called Eulogy. People at the funeral would have had little connection to the life my father led before heart disease consumed him. Marooned as he was, in a Florida retirement on the edge of the Everglades, the outback of Fort Lauderdale. There would be no former colleagues, friends, business associates, few relatives besides my mother, his 2 daughters, their husbands, except for one high school fraternity brother By sheer chance, Sam and his wife bought a condo unit 1 floor below my parents. My father was the oldest of 3 brothers. One came to the service. The other one didn't care to attend, wasn't interested. The only words that came to mind were from a poem I memorized in grade school. Write me as one who loved his fellow men. Back at the apartment, we finished the bottle of Armagnac he drank for his blood pressure, shared stories about Dave late into the night. I'm going to read a short one to finish. I didn't know until I read that old notebook, the spiral notebook I still have, from his last year, 1977. He was a furrier, but he was also one of the founders of the Endangered Species Act and had testified before Congress. I never knew this. And he did a lot of writing on the environment and especially animal rights. This is the last poem in the book, and it's based on and adapted specifically from his words and his notebook. It's a sonnet called An Historical Flashback from Dave's notebook, 1977. As early as 1930, a special Senate Committee on Conservation of Wildlife Resources came to the conclusion the primary threat to wildlife was the loss of habitat, due in part to drainage, deforestation, fire, disease, water pollution, and the extended occupation of land by agriculture and industry. All subsequent studies have reinforced our original analysis by this committee, which applies today not only to the U.S., but to the rest of this fragile earth. 1977.
1977.
Thank you very much. I'm so overwhelmed by tonight. I really am.
Beth, you hold your own at the top level with this work. Your work is so beautiful, and I'm so glad you're here tonight.
I almost didn't make it. I'm having, I think I'm getting hacked into my Zoom. It keeps getting interrupted. I had trouble getting online. Are you getting any kind of ghost stuff filtering into your Zoom tonight? Anybody else but me?
No, nothing.
Yeah, no, it must be all your fans trying to kick in.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's
Well,
overwhelming the net.
I'm gonna post
No, there
access to
has
the
been
video.
a lot of trouble with Zoom lately, last couple of days.
I think so, Steve. Last night I had the same thing with another Zoom function. There's bad vibes out there. I'm gonna post any information on the book so you'll know.
I think it's actually Doge taking Zoom down. We have two yeah, such potential here. We have Lenny and then Joan. So Lenny, who's back and bringing it to us, please?
That other reading ended really okay. So Lenny, I'm glad to be here. I had jotted down a list of titles that I wanted to use as poem titles if I could, because sometimes I do that without knowing what the poems were going to be. And so I started doing some stream of consciousness stuff about a month ago and just ran and riffed and did. And then I started tweaking and hammering and sawing and taking out and putting in. And then when I got done with it, I realized, oh, okay, I could take this. I could use the title that was waiting for the poem that I had jotted down, and it's called Unreliable Narrator. It's got an epigraph that goes, speak according to the madness that has seduced you. And that's Andre Breton. My old friend spends most of his time in a book, sticks his head out only when weather allows. He dreams about his tea and toast childhood, the invisible people he played with in his yard. Says he's always lived in another world. Me too. Sometimes I wake up on a train. Housewives stream by with clothespins in their teeth. They dress backyard lines with windy white underwear, pink sleeping gowns. I clickety-clack past the Ford and Pontiac junkyard, cannibalized for fenders. Chevy empire of exhausted fuel pumps, 100 wrecked transmissions in summer dirt, and rough boys on fruit boxes sipping root beer pass around a dirty magazine. Look, a huge Quonset hut near the regional airport, a helicopter repair shop. I once conducted a blood drive here after a small plane crashed, killing the pilot and somebody's sister-in-law. Nobody wanted to give blood. We recruiters had a saying, everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. A mechanic up to her elbows in gearbox guts cursed when her thumb was in the wrong place. For that mistake, a throbbing wrench snakebite. I said, can't trust those helicopters, huh? Get the fuck off my property, she said. The train makes its way across town. A sagging Queen Anne looks like Cousin Rosalie's place on Oak Street. My cousins and I picked her grapes, threw them at the side of the house. Punished, we couldn't watch The Wizard of Oz after that. So we climbed through the window, out onto the front overhang, sat in the dark. The conductor comes by with fireflies in his hair. What's that you're painting? An abstract representing man's inhumanity to man, I say. But really, it's the human condition, what with the triangles and secret codes. Looks like my bowling friend Ed, he says. I had a cousin named Ed, played lacrosse. Smiled when he rapped his knuckles on his cup. But maybe I'm painting a machine without knowing it. Something I saw when we rolled past the Piggly Wiggly. A spaceship got itself hung up in orbit around a planet and never broke loose in a million years until it ditched itself here at 402 Ferndale Court in Copiague. My family was the first to live in this house. A kid named Charlie lived behind us. He carried a book around with him. I watched him read under his dad's red maple that was lightning struck in '58. After we moved away, I heard Charlie made things shine just before they danced away down the street. He was a machinist, the paper said. Though everyone liked him, they kept their distance. Neighbors didn't trust book readers, but said he made the most joyous things of broken toys, watches, and magnets. I'd like to reach out to Charlie, ask him if he remembers me, but I don't think he would. Not sure he was real anyway. I must have dreamed him up out of dungarees and checkered shirts, flapping in the sun, my mother reeling him out on a rope into the backyard. Thanks.
You know, there's narrative poetry, of course, but there's also the narrative element that it runs and is necessary for most fiction. But it doesn't mean in fiction that you're actually going to follow the narrative or be interested or it's written well. And while you bring the well-written into the narrative poetry, so always a pleasure following your thread. Well, following the yellow brick thread, Joan, who's jumping around on her laptop here. Is this a dance routine? What do we have coming up? Oh yeah. Okay. All right, bring it home, Joan.
Right. You give me a heavy act to follow all these. So let's see. Oh, it looks like we lost Ken. They killed Kenny. Where did he go? Oh, there he is.
No, I'm here. I actually always blank out the video so I can actually listen to the words more closely. So no, you're up. I'm here.
Yeah, you did a dance. You shifted places. All right. So I've pulled up some old ones. And it just goes to show you how things don't change. No, but I'm gonna, I think, work with this one a little bit. So, sorry, I gotta find my place in that book. There we go. So this is a series called Blood Song Trilogy. Rushing away from the claustrophobic need to fear, the dead whisper, one step nearer. Mid-morning, mid-life, mid-breath, women wake for want of green, hoping for motherhood again, and not this beginning of endless death. Living things, growing things, sprouting words, we wait for origin. Now, in the house where our daughters sleep, a memory of motherhood, we amputate sounds, hoping the poems rush out by the time we get back in. Bodies alien, territory of a conquered race. Amazon mutilated the breast to make a statement, not the bowstring, sing more clearly. Song like a taunting, song like a river, song like history, to reconcile wanting, one more hope of victory, one less story hidden from maidenhood, now bursting through the skin, altar to the ancient matriarch, Asherah, sing to us, we would sing to you. Not old inside, the body comes out from within, scars the skin, the rich irony of blood over water, living to tell of lightness. Yes, you to whom this song is but a wandering, come to find this home, harbors that river of song for you, a puzzle, an oracle, rich blood poured over stone, water.
Oh,
Eh,
do you have a second poem to close this out?
yes, okay. Trying to pick I've got a series that kind of all goes together, and I know you don't want to hear all of them, so I'm going to pick. Let's see. All right, how about a little bizarre piece that, one of those things you wake up and write and you don't know where the hell it came from. Now I know where it's going. It's called Eating Toes. The woman walked until she could walk no farther, a long dirt road darkened by the remainder of yesterday's storm. She'd lost or never found any picture of herself. How she looked to others was a mystery. The woman moved along with the rest, her children clinging to her skirts, shoeless, crying. She arrived at the head of the line. The director took her hand and pulled her aside. You may leave your children here. You won't be needing them in your next life. Move on. She turned her face to the right and walked on, unable to heed. Deaf and mute were her tears. What if someone asked you, would you give up your children to have your parents back? To have your future free to choose? To have the chance to hear again, new? She walked until she came to a dirt pit, barren, void of demand, nothing to do but sit at its nadir, collapsed in her wishful thinking, starvation knocking. She clutched her foot like a bowl, where she crouched. The blackened, brittle toes she plucked like peas, shelled them into her mouth. Undeterred, this mutilation would keep her other body alive. How's that for bizarre?
That
Well,
was
powerful. Yeah.
yes,
Go ahead, Greg,
yes.
please.
Oh, Joan, you have fulfilled every expectation of concluding this remarkable night of poetry. That was
Yes.
wonderful.
Yeah, it's an amazing bookend to the evening. So, aren't we all glad this one was recorded? There wasn't a weak link in the chain, but certainly the biggest link, the heaviest metal, was from Mary Louise and her feature and her work tonight, which we applaud. And I will say this is not self-aggrandizement, promotion any which way, but Mary Louise did mention a poem that that earned her the rarity of it, a little stipend from being published. And I mean, literally 2 hours ago, I opened up my mail from the day, and I'd had a poem recently published in the Pedestal magazine, and I got 50 big ones to
Yes,
which
that's a lot of
let me
money.
tell you, that's a lot of money. Let me
A
tell
lot of
you,
money in poet land.
that is not going to appear in my tax statement next year, but you didn't hear it here. This is not being recorded anymore, right, Greg? Just tell me no. It's
Oh,
all
it's
good.
being recorded. Ooh la la la.
Don't worry, there won't be any IRS to collect it.
Pays for a
Oh,
lot of those
there you go.
submission fees.
Well put, Joan. Perfectly so.
I just want to say that I do 3 of these on the average a month, and this was a stellar night. Everybody brought a game, and it was remarkable and stunning, line by line, all evening. Might be the best caps ever for me.
Oh.
Yeah.
We exactly. I mean, another moment of breathlessness that we absorb, Greg, what you're saying. So,
Joan,
well,
I just want to say that I felt like I was back in Cormac McCormack's The Road with your images.
Yeah, I
You
hear
know,
that.
Yeah.
I'll have to look that up because I'm not familiar.
You never have read his work on Unreal.
Particularly is an award-winning and deservedly so remarkable piece of fiction.
Yeah. Well, when we are comparing ourselves rightly to that level, right? I mean, truly, skill and impression. Yeah. What can we say?
We're among friends. Sure.
There you go. We are just that good. Okay. All right. It's, on the East Coast, it's 9:09 and I've yet to have dinner. So what can I say? This has been fantastic and a pleasure throughout. And just the level of engagement that has kept us all here is duly deserved from all the work that's been presented. So thank you all.
Good night,
And Greg,
everyone.
to you for making it happen.
Wonderful stuff. Great reading, everyone.
Agreed. Take care, everyone.
Just want to wish everyone a happy Easter and a happy end of Passover if you celebrate both or either. Some families do. And let's pray for better times with this season coming up.
Thank
We're all
you.
good.
Pray.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so
We're all
much.
good with that.
Take care, everybody.
Okay, till next first Friday. Remember, first Friday coming up in May. There'll be poets. Come on back. Okay.
Thanks,
Bye.
Ken. Thanks, man.
Okay, you're welcome.
Bye,
Good to see you,
Sandy.
Sandy. Great.
Thank you. Greg, I'll be emailing you.
Okay, will
Or
do.
Great. See ya.
To it, Joan. All right.